Hello. We are back with another reading, let's say. Um I'm going to be honest. Um I've been staring at what it seems to be a blank abyss. Maybe this day, the day before, and the one after that. Um Really just no grounding whatsoever. Um strange times we are in, to say the least, and it's almost hard to make any sense out of nonsense or any grounding out of perpetual flow. And I mean, that's just that. I mean, I don't want to say too much on that front. Though I don't feel there's a reason to not embrace the moment which we're in still. It's just harder to find like that meaningful like purpose inside of your being when everything seems to be shifting in a wind that blows 100 kilometers an hour. Now I have a writing down. It's just right here and right in front of me, and I want to read it to you. And it's a good reading. It's a good piece that I wrote a while ago. And mind my gaze as I stare down, and we'll read it together here. The title is "The Way of the Water." They say there's no beginning or end, that life is just a constant cycle. Water becoming form and then back into water. Everything we see is water. All life stems from water. We must respect water. Water is flow. We must respect flow. There are no feelings that cannot flow, and no thoughts that can halter. Only our consciousness can stop. We must allow flow and continue with the processes of life. The universe, earth, spirits are all here to help us flow. Allow yourself to be guided by the world, no matter how trivial it may seem. Nature is very wise. In a world full of separation, it is only our minds which keep us separate. The great way is one which is, simply put, flow. We put so much emphasis on defining and confining that we never stretch the thought that maybe that is not the way, but an illusion. Water does not need to be told to flow, it just flows. And I wrote like a little note after I wrote everything down, and it says, we are 95% water, so 95% of us must just flow. That's the end of the writing. Without too much interpretation, I mean, that is what it is. The way of the water. They say there is no beginning or end. In these times, especially for me, it feels like the whole world is just flowing in a like how waves, just crash into the beach. You get one wave coming in, boom, it crashes, and then it goes back out. Or how, like a water wheel at a mill, let's say, it goes up and it goes around. Or just the flow of a river, it goes out and it goes all the way back to the lake. There's so much to be said about allowing flow, even if it's in places that seem so far stretched, like negative emotions, any negativity. Like we even determine that as bad, take it away from the mental, focus it more on the body. It's like when your bowels are moving, you're like, oh, that's bad, and you're just like, you're attributing that to something bad, though, yet on the same coin, that flow is what allows everything to process and move, through. Right now, at least where I'm at, it's a transitioning from snow to no snow. There's flow, there's release almost, what it seems to be, an uncovering. And you shouldn't take that lightly. I wouldn't take it lightly at all. So I don't know like where you are and what's going on in your circumstances, but the way of the water is allowing life to happen to you. I like how I wrote, like just looking back at my own writing, like this line where it says, there are no feelings that cannot flow, and no thoughts that can halter. Only our consciousnesses can stop. It's only your ego which will stop and nitpick something. And your ego doesn't necessarily have like a halter, You know how a horse has a halter, and it has the bit, chomps on the bit. It's like the ego doesn't really have any reins, to pull it back in. It's sometimes it just goes back wild. But allowing the flow to just happen and give it space and allow that thought just to, just pass by softly or maybe, aggressively, because water is not just gentle, but it's also aggressive. If you allow everything to flow, I feel you will find the grounding that you're looking for. I know for me, that's how I find my flow. We must allow flow and continue with the processes of life. That's all we can do. And I love that. I just love that. Just allow flow. I do want to attribute a little bit of inspiration in where I got this just writing to begin with, which was from Avatar, The Way of the Water. Hence the title of the writing. But if you've seen the movie, must have endured at least it's like 2 hours, almost 3 hours of just sitting down and attentively watching. Though what you get to see in that movie is exactly the way of the water. You get to see flow in action. And I'm not saying go sit down for 3 hours and watch the movie, but what I'm saying is if you struggle to find your rhythm, just allow whatever naturally comes through your being to happen. Even if the happenstance is the most coarsest, roughest, most heinous of emotions, you must allow it to pass by. Because what's on the other side of that is probably your desire. And if someone told you, like straight, like right now, it's like, okay, you sit down. If you allow all these bad things to happen to you, you will get everything you want. What would you say to that man? Would you say to him, oh, no way, Jose, I'm going to stick and stay rigid? Or are you going to be like, okay, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to allow all this to happen. Without any assumptions, I would probably assume, well, I said without assumptions, but here I am assuming, but I would have to bet that you would choose to allow the bad to happen and then ultimately get your desires. Or you could be a stick up person and then try to stick through it, but I don't know if it's going to work for you. You know? Just the truth. Your heart's always beating. I don't know how many beats per minute you're at right now, but it is going. And your mind's always ticking. Everyone around you's the same thing. Don't try to control that. Just allow it to happen. I think I've said enough. I want to say more, but I don't want to murky your mind with too much information to filter through, because Lord knows we already have enough of that. If anything, take this first bit of this whole writing with you, and I'll leave you with this. They say there's no beginning or end. That life is just a constant cycle. Water becoming form, and then back into water.